Hey guys, just wanted to say hey and thanks for being such great leaders. Our team was working on the lesson for this week and we actually come into a really interesting passage. It's where Stephen is stoned. And up until this point, the early church has experienced a little bit of opposition, but this is the first time when you really stop and go, my goodness, this is life and death. Stephen died. And it really raises those questions in our lives about what do we do when we feel like things are going really badly, when stuff's piling in from every side, we've lost our job, or for the kids, maybe their parents are getting divorced, or all these rotten things from the kingdom of darkness that begin afflicting our lives. And specifically, even when we decide we want to take this adventure and walk with God and enter His kingdom through Christ, it's a very exciting thing, but then, stuff comes up, as we all know, that makes it very difficult to continue following God. And so the big question that we are going to wrestle with as a group this week is, what do you do in those situations? And we've found in our experience reading the scriptures and in our own lives that the best question that we can ask when life is getting that way is, Lord, where are you in this? Or when we think back to memories where our lives were shaped, sometimes for the worse. God, where were you at that time when that happened? And we see a picture of this so clearly with Stephen. Here he is under the pelting rain of the stones, about to expire. And where was Jesus? He has the clear picture. Jesus at the right hand of the Father. He's standing and he says, Lord, receive my spirit. Because he knows exactly where Jesus is. And it's one thing for us to say intellectually, God is always with us. But it's a completely different thing entirely to know specifically what He is doing in our circumstance, in our situation, whatever it is that we're going through. And what we find throughout the scriptures is that when the people of God come to these points, they turn their faces to God and they have a direct encounter with Him, where He gives them insight that He alone has. Psalm 73, Asaph is singing about how the world around him doesn't make any sense. The wicked are prospering and the righteous are falling by the wayside, and he can't make sense of it. And then he says, I came into the sanctuary of God, into the presence of God, and there these things became clear to me. Even Paul, and we know Paul had so many wonderful experiences with God, he talks about how he has this thorn in the flesh. And he prays about it to God until he hears directly from God. God's answer, which is, my grace is sufficient for you. And I think sometimes we get to these points in our lives where we have a thorn in our flesh and we're just kind of like, we'll just take Paul's answer, what God spoke to Paul. My grace is sufficient. Well, that's excellent. That's good. It's important. But at the same time, we need to hear that directly. We need to know that He is with us. What is He doing in our lives in these times? And so, with your kids, and maybe even with yourselves this week, as we ask the question, what do you do when times are tough? I want us all to be able to think about, pray, how do we ask God what He's doing, where He is in the situation that we're dealing with. And if the lesson stirs up some of these situations with your kids or even with yourself, what we want to encourage you to do is to pray with your kids. And this is a simple prayer. Lord Jesus, where are you in this situation? Or where were you in that situation that happened in the past? Where are you? And then just stop and listen. And so often, as God does, He gives pictures or He speaks His voice. He gives a direct encounter because He is so faithful. And I've prayed with dozens of men this way. God, where were you at this point? And God speaks. He speaks because He's so faithful. And I got to tell you, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, He's with us. It's another thing when He says, this is where I am with you, and gives you that picture to hold on to. So the lesson this week, we're excited about it. We really feel like God's going to speak through His Word, and I think He's going to speak directly to some of the kids. We wanted to give you that sort of preparation to be thinking about it in your own lives and in the lives of your kids in case some of this comes up. Thanks.